the left continues to talk about neo-Nazis and white supremacists being part of the right. Now, since I've started engaging in these podcasts, yes, predictably, the attacks from the left have been coming in. Now, never mind the fact that everything that I'm saying is pretty much based on some assumptions of how society should run, which I will openly call political assumptions, and logic stemming from factual analysis. I think it's pretty obvious that I take great pains in doing that. But despite those efforts, the attacks keep coming with increasing fervor that from the left on all sorts of unsubstantiated stuff. And one of those, of course, is the neo-Nazi white supremacist conversation. And again, here's the premise. The neo-Nazis and the white supremacists are part of the alt-right, or for their matter, they would love to get rid of the word alt and just call it right. Okay, I'm going to go over once again in a little bit greater detail why this is impossible. They are not part of conservatism. They are not part of the right. They are part of a nasty, perverted, previously clandestine, but now open effort to destroy the United States. That's essentially what their plan is. And the whole reason why I can tell you with great certainty is that they are from the left is because they are all collectivists. That's the key point. The left in the United States is liberal. The right in the United States is conservative. The left in the United States is liberal. Liberalism springs from collectivism. What is collectivism? Well, it's actually a 19th century philosophy. It postdated the creation of this country. Okay, this country was based on a very conservative natural law principle that we all have a direct relationship with God, and because each one of us has a direct relationship with God, there is no room for interference except for those interferences that we voluntarily submit to. In other words, we give up some of our rights for the purposes of society, to being run. That was the 18th century philosophy that led to the creation of the greatest country in the world, the United States of America. Now, in the 19th century, there were some horrors taking place. There were horrors because we were dealing with this new capitalism system that a lot of people didn't understand. Throw in the Industrial Revolution, throw in a few famines in Europe, and throw in some dictatorships and dictatorial monarchies, and you get this oppression and this terrible set of social injustices. Okay, why? Well, because they did not observe natural law. That's why. That is the conservatives' principle. If you got rid of all the dictatorships, if you got rid of all the monarchies, and instead you substituted it with a government founded on the power of the people, such that the government draws whatever authority it draws from the people, and by the way, we'll separate the powers and we'll create checks and balances, then you have a much better environment for social justice, the social justice that all of you on the left seek. But no, they decided to come with a different approach, and their approach was essentially utilitarianism. What's utilitarianism? Well, Jeremy Bentham is the first major author who talks about utilitarianism, and that is the concept that the appropriateness of a law or policy is not measured by the protections of one's individual freedoms. This is directly against the foundation of our country. This is an enemy of the foundation of the country. No, the appropriateness of your law, think about the comment. The appropriateness of a law or policy is not measured by the protection of your rights. No, who cares about your rights? Why don't we care about your rights? We don't care about your rights because the purpose of a human being is to live for the state. That he doesn't say that here in so many words, but that is the implication. The monumental battle here between conservatism and liberalism is centered on what does it mean to be a human being? Why are you here? Why have you been thrust upon this place of great suffering and great strife called our planet and our existence, our lives. Why are we here? Is it because we are here as individuals to pursue a greater truth and perhaps pursue some greater agenda given to us by God? Or are we here because we belong to the state? If you live in China, pretty much the philosophy is the people live for the state. If you live in a monarchy, in a pure monarchy, your existence is there for the state. The United States is the first country that ever went against that, which is why we are an exception, which is why we are an exceptionalist society. That's why we have American exceptionalism. We are the great exception, and we are the great hope for the future of humanity. But not Jeremy Bentham. Jeremy Bentham says that those laws that you guys are coming up with, no, those laws are designed to help individual freedoms, and that is not the measure by which the appropriateness of a law should be undertaken. No, it is because it is by the utility of the policy to society as a whole. Okay, think about that, and think about what that reminds you of. The measure of what makes an appropriate law is not your protection, but what it does for all of us in general. The benefit of all to all outweighs the benefit of the few or of the one. So from that, if you subscribe to this philosophy, then you get naturally to socialism. Robert Owens in Wales, a societal structure where the elements of production are not owned by the individual but by the state, was his idea. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. Okay, I understand that the societal structure needs to be one where the elements of production are controlled by society and not by the individual. But you know what? This is all, what you're forgetting here is that this is intermingled all with class struggle. Class struggle. The rich, the people, well, they didn't necessarily use the words rich. They were talking more in line of those who owned the power, controlled the power, and controlled the production versus those who didn't, the proletariat. The bourgeois versus the proletariat. And this was a class war that needed to be settled in favor of the proletariats. And the way we were going to do that, because of utilitarianism and this concept of the appropriateness of a law being its utility to society over that of the protection of individual rights, what we're going to do is we're going to come up with a system where there's no property. If there's no property, there's no class. If there's no class, there's no class struggle. Problem solved. Everybody will be one big mass. And yes, in order to make this happen, Lenin and the followers of this philosophy ended up killing over 110 million people. So what a wonderful idea they came up with. Okay, fascists. Fascists came out of the same root, utilitarianism. The unifying force was not classes for fascists. It was a nation. The concept of a nation. What's the concept of a nation? A group of people that share a historical, ethnic, and yes, maybe even racial background. So for them, it wasn't about class struggle. It was about the superiority of one social subgroup, racial subgroup, ethnic subgroup over the others, i.e. Nazism. The Nazis weren't conservatives. They weren't part of the right. They were socialists. It was a socialist party. But it was centered on the superiority of the Aryan race. Mussolini in Italy, same thing. Franco in Spain, same thing. These are all collectivist philosophies. They are antithetical. They exist in an attempt to destroy what it means to be conservative, i.e., the protector of your individual rights. So once again, for you guys on the left who keep kind of ridiculously attacking this notion that fascists are not part of the right, once again, let me explain it to you. Fascism and any other political philosophy based on the precept that the needs of a group, whether it be a class and a socioeconomic group, or whether it be a racial group, is part of the name speaks for itself. Collectivist philosophy. A collectivist model that was built on utilitarianism, where who cares about the rights of each and every person? Who cares about the rights of Hispanics? Who cares about the rights of Jews to even live? Who cares about the rights of blacks to not be enslaved and chained? What is more important is that whites be protected, or that the proletariat be protected, or that Spaniards be protected, or that Italians, in the case of Mussolini, be protected. That's the only thing that matters. The needs of the group outweigh whatever needs you have. Because essentially we're redefining what it means to be a human being. You're not here for the sake of your relationship with God and to promote your wonderful growth and development. No, you are here to support society. So who cares? You're like an ant. You're like an ant, a soldier ant, whose only purpose is to support the colony. And if you die because you get squished on by a foot, it doesn't matter, because the whole group is still continuing to exist. Conservatism is the antithesis of these philosophies. Conservative stands for the rights of the individual, for your relationship with God. It stands for your ability to be who you are and develop into what you ought to be as guided by your relationship with God. It's a holy alliance between each and every one of us as individuals. That's why it's so important that conservatism, number one, not be confused with these ridiculous, recurrently failing alternative philosophies, but second, that it not be allowed to fail, and in particular the United States, which is, like I said multiple times before, the greatest hope for success for natural law and societies that spring from it. My name is Dr. Julio Gonzalez. You are listening to the Federalist Pages.